Hello YouTube, it's Ryan here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing another episode of What Talk. Today we're going to be looking at episode 7, The Dark Along the Way, or Along the Ways, I think, it's with an S. And this is an interesting episode because there was a lot of stuff I really liked, and a lot of stuff, really just one thing that kind of was a big part of the episode that I didn't really like. So let's get into it and see what that is. So we start here with a battle on Dragon Mountain. It's supposed to be the last battle of the Aiel Wars, if I remember correctly. And it's about, we see a Aiel woman who happens to be pregnant, fighting. And I think she doesn't have her her face covered. So that might have been a missed detail there. Or it might have been done purposefully to either show that she's in a harried, what's it called, position where she's like trying to have her kid, but she's, having to fight. Or it might be that they're trying to show that this is a woman, and it's kind of hard to tell if they're not, unmasked. Either way, she's really pregnant, and she fights some warrior dudes that have yellow and green, and they have like bees on their breastplate, which is pretty interesting. I would assume they would have had lions on their breastplate since they should be from Camelin. But I guess not. So either way, there were some good parts here and some bad ones. Some of the CGI, like real life animation that they used for the fight scene looked, one, really bad, and two, insane, because it's like this pregnant lady doing crazy, superhero level acrobatics, and it just didn't look good. It would have been better if they were a little bit more subdued with it, but they're trying to show that Aiel are, basically supernatural warriors. So I kind of understand it, kind of don't like it anyways. And eventually she gets stabbed in the gut, kind of like more in the back of her body than in the front. And she gives birth right then and there, and dies as her baby is born. And this man, who later unmasks himself and reveals himself to be Tam Altor, aka Rand's father, helps her and sees that she has died and keeps her child, and oh my god, it's Rand. Which was a reveal that I think we never officially get spoken in the books, at least up to book 3. However, it is heavily hinted at, and it is a easy to kind of understand thing, because in the first book they have the scene where Rand hears his father say things while he's delirious from the Trolloc poison as he's taken to visit Nynaeve. And then we get to see that, Rand is an Aielman, and he was born outside of Two Rivers, aka he's, this kid that Tam Altor just brought home. So, interesting. And then we move on, and we get to see that everyone's in the ways. Matt has been left behind, and Moraine forges on ahead, and Loyal mentions Machin Shin in order to stop people from channeling inside the ways, right? So we get to see Loyal be kind of scared, which so far is an interesting development of the character, because he has been wise and powerful throughout the 2 episodes that he's been in. And so seeing him a little bit scared is kind of interesting. And I am curious to see if we're going to get to see Loyal's teenagerness along the episodes in the future, in the second season. Because, Loyal is ancient feeling due to the fact that he's 200 years old and humans are only 20. But he is, realistically in the same developmental phase as a teenager, as all of the people from Emond's Field. And so he kind of does come off pretty teenager-ish throughout the books quite often. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see that. Eventually, the Emond's Fielders talk, and they decide that they have to move forward. However, this doesn't feel very impactful due to the scene near the end of the episode last time, where the Amerlin seat tells everyone that, the pattern doesn't care about your opinions and what you want. And so this kind of moment of discussion to decide what they're going to do feel pretty useless and ridiculous. And if you've been kind of binge watching this, you kind of feel like there's no stakes and stuff like that, because as soon as, you know, the pattern not caring about you, what you want, has been said, there's this uptick in decision making conversations, which is kind of so opposite that it kind of breaks the immersion, right? So I don't like that. I think they should have kept the part where the pattern doesn't care what you want away from the conversation. They could have just done something else to kind of mean the same thing but not be so direct, because it basically makes this episode and the next one, where they have like 3 or 4 different conversations about deciding what to do and about having choices, kind of feel moot, like there's no reason for them, which kind of sucks. But yeah, they're deciding what to do, and while they're doing that, Moraine and Lan are further ahead, and they're talking about their decision making, and what needs to happen and stuff like that. And I can't remember anything specific about what they talk about, but basically it's like, I'll force them to go if they don't want to, something along those lines. Loyal here is used for quite a bit of exposition. He explains what the ways are, what the Machin Shin is, what type of death you can experience in the ways, what sort of things beyond death you can experience. And, Rand basically shuts him up because Loyal talks a lot, which I thought was pretty funny. We also get this little moment here of Lan and Nynaeve joking around. Nynaeve is pretty scowly, and Lan comes up to her and he's like, hey, you owe me 3 silver pieces. And then he explains it is because he and Moraine made a bet on whether she would be pouting or scowling, and Lan lost, which I thought was pretty cute and pretty funny. It's nice to see Nynaeve and Lan's relationship slowly but pretty naturally develop. It's a little bit better than in the books, but I think that the one in the books is a lot more impactful because it has a lot more like emotional depth to it, instead of like Star Wars-esque longly gazing into each other's eyes like in Attack of the Clones. So I don't know. I think I think it's good, but I think that the book still handled it better. But anyway, Perrin eventually sees something. He has like super sight, which I don't think wolves have, so I don't know why his wolf brother powers give him that. But he can see really far away, and he says, hey, there's something up there. And then eventually they reach it, and it's a waygate stone that has been slashed up, as in people don't want them to be able to read it. And Loyal is still able to, so it's fine. But there's this scene where Loyal is deciphering this, and then everyone's kind of taking a rest. Nynaeve is on her own, Perrin's on his own, and then Rand and Egwene are sleeping together. And there's this close-up of Perrin's face, seeing that and kind of scratching his nose and kind of being upset, which is playing up this interest that Perrin has in Egwene for this reveal that happens later on in the episode, which basically comes out of nowhere and feels like unnecessary tension, to kind of cover the fact that Matt isn't there anymore. I'm not really sure why they did that. It doesn't really feel necessary, but whatever. We'll see what happens there later. And eventually a Trolloc attacks, and Egwene channels in order to save herself. The Machin Shin comes for them, and Loyal tries to take them to the nearest waygate, which is the gate for Faldara, and the Machin Shin attacks. So what happens is that everyone hears things they don't want to hear. Rand hears that Egwene's never going to love him the same way he loves her, which is pretty true. In the series so far, Egwene basically seems like someone that wants to be important, and not necessarily someone that truly deeply cares about her friends the same way Rand and Perrin do. So I don't know, or the same way Nynaeve does. So I can definitely see that being true, and of course in the books this kind of does seem to be the case as far as I've read. We get to see Nynaeve hear that everyone's going to die on her, and she's going to be alone again. We get to see that Perrin has this moment of uncertainty when he hears that the truth is he didn't love Lila, and that Egwene was the well, it doesn't really say Egwene, but we can understand that Egwene is the woman that he truly loves, which is ridiculous because there has been no semblance of this yet or ever in the series so far. So I don't know. Eventually, Nynaeve gets fed up. She has an angry face, and she finally channels. This is the second time she channels, and again, it's super hyper powerful. And I actually like this because it is consistent with the books. Nynaeve in the books can only channel when she's angry, and so far, the 2 times that he has channeled, she has been feeling strong emotions. Maybe the first time wasn't necessarily anger, but it was definitely not a positive emotion, and I like that this time it was definitely anger. So I like that. I thought that was really, really good. And the angry channeling leads the Machin to kind of be pushed away, which Moraine uses this opportunity to open up the Waygate. And also, the Machin actually proved to be a very good character development tool for Moraine, specifically because it talks about how Moraine is leading these kids to death. She is essentially committing murder. However, she's trying to hide it under this veneer of heroism, which I thought was really, really good, because this is a very mean way of looking at Moraine's character, and it does affect her deeply, but she knows that it's her duty to do so, so it's actually really good. I actually like that part very, very, a lot. However, the Perrin part, I didn't really care for. Eventually, they arrive at Dara, and everyone's like, oh my god, Daishan, and and everyone's like, oh, why do they care about Lan, right? And eventually they go talk to Anglemar, and he's a dumbass. Very similar to the books. However, I think reading it, it feels less stupid than hearing it physically from a character. And it's basically a bunch of exposition about how the Feldarans are powerful people that have been the stronghold against the Blight forever. And they don't need help. And then Moraine kind of gets fed up, and she's like, fuck you, we're not here to help you. We're just here because we need to go somewhere, and we just happen to come here first. And then Anglemar is like, oh, well, never mind then. You guys can stay here as long as you want. Please feel free to do whatever. Which I thought was pretty funny, but, Anglemar ends up being a pretty big dummy there. And then we see Pat and Fane come out of the Waygate. However, we get no explanation about why Pat and Fane is there or anything at all. And I don't know. It could have been a little bit better, done, but whatever, it's fine. And then Moraine and Anglemar's sister talk, and they bring up Min, which is great. Finally, we get to see Min, and then Moraine asks Anglemar's sister to send a message to the Red Sisters to go find Mat Cauthon, which is pretty interesting. This is basically setting up the story that brings back Mat into the fold, right? But also kind of follows the path that Mat took in the Great Hunt and in the early parts of the Dragon Reborn. So that's pretty cool. I quite like that. I think it's pretty nice, pretty interesting. So I'm happy with that. However, it would have been better if Mat was actually in Dara with everyone else. Eventually, they walk around Dara. Everyone's kind of sad. Perrin sees Pat and Fane. No one believes him, and finally enters Min, right? And the boys chat about the Way of the Leaf, and the girls are kind of looking at Moraine. Moraine is, talking to Min. She wants information, and we get to see Min have some visions. And initially, I thought her face glowed when she was doing visions, like she was weaving unintentionally or something. But no, it's just there's this ray of light that comes in, and it hits her right in the forehead, and so it looks kind of like her face is glowing, but it's not, so, whatever. But, I don't know. It's pretty interesting. We get to see that Perrin has glowing golden eyes. We get to see Rand carrying a baby, which actually plays into the next episode, so that was okay. We get to see that, someone has a white flame, which, of course, is going to be Egwene, and we get to see a woman with a golden ring, which is, of course, Nynaeve, because Lan, right? So there we go. That's what happens there. And then Moraine's prophecy is that the Amyrlin seat will be her downfall. Now, I don't know if this is because of romance or because Moraine works for the Amyrlin seat in secret, and her secret is that she's doing this stuff for the Dragon Reborn. So I'm not sure what that's supposed to be there, but I do like that there's potential doublespeak because all of the other ones are pretty clear if you know the source material. So that's pretty interesting. Eventually, they're back at Dara, and there's a confrontation and some real talk with Moraine. Eventually, everyone's like, okay, so who's the dragon? And, you know, Moraine's like, I don't know. It's one of you 5. The other 4 are probably going to die if you come with us, but I need to take all of you because I don't know who the dragon is. And then they're like, but how do you know that we're the dragon? What if it's Matt? And Moraine's like, nah, it's not Matt. And Egwene is also like, nah, Matt's a hoe. We don't need him. Eventually they have this little moment here where Moraine's like, doubt is bad. And we get into some like Jedi type logic about it, you know, like fear leads to the dark side kind of shit. Doubt leads to the to the dark one, which I think is dumb, but whatever, okay. Doubt is a natural part of humanity, so I don't really see that is necessarily a bad thing. It's just how you deal with doubt that is, you know, concerning, right? Eventually we go on this aspect of choice again, which is go or stay. And again, being that the Emerald seat very clearly stated that the pattern doesn't care about what you want, it's going to pull you and push you in the direction that it wants. This choice aspect is unnecessary. It's basically just character building with no stakes. And Egwene basically wants to be important, and she tries to spin it in a way where it's like, no, I want to save people and I want to make sure that our families are safe, but primarily Egwene just comes off like she wants to be important. Nynaeve wants to stick it to Moraine, so she doesn't initially want to go, but Egwene manages to convince her by saying that if Moraine wasn't involved, she would do it, no questions asked, which is true. So Nynaeve bends and goes for it. Rand is the only one that is somewhat heroic-ish without feeling like he has ulterior motives. So I thought that was pretty interesting. He wants to go so that he doesn't lose more people, which I think is pretty good. Perrin is the one that is most doubtful. And then, you know, Egwene scoffs at the idea that Matt is the Dragon Reborn. There's this situation that occurs where that is like a fight that is kind of weird. Nynaeve says something she shouldn't have said, and Egwene does as well. Rand responds with like, you know what? You're the number one authority on leaving people, so you would know that Matt isn't the Dragon Reborn. Eventually, Perrin gets mad at it, and he, you know, kind of like tells Rand that he needs to apologize. And then Nynaeve says something stupid here that she shouldn't have said, which reveals that Perrin is in love with Egwene, which basically comes out of nowhere. Like, yes, there was a lot of setup for that specific idea in this episode, but there was none in the previous 6, and it doesn't really fit that well. Like, if you're reading the books, I could definitely understand if you're reading The Eye of the World and you think, hey, all 3 of these guys probably like Egwene, and Egwene prefers Rand right now, but could easily change her mind about any of them, right? Especially when she spends a lot of time with Perrin, and they're kind of protective of each other in that moment when they're with the Tinkers. However, as you get further into the books, this clearly becomes a non-issue because Egwene is obsessed with Rand, and you know, every time that she's talking to female characters that are her age, it's always about Rand, or about weaves and, you know, being an Aes Sedai. So I don't know why they came up with this idea. I think that's because they had to have conflict, but they couldn't have Matt in there, so they had to find a different conflict to have. And so they were like, oh, well, Perrin likes Egwene, because that's the easiest thing to set up with the previous 6 episodes where Egwene and Perrin spend most of the time together. So I don't know. I feel that was pretty weird. It wasn't really strong, so I don't like it too much, but I don't know. Moraine and Lan chat later on in the night, and Lan's like, you know what, you gave them the semblance of choice, that's all they needed. And Moraine gets a bit nostalgic, and they have this kind of deep conversation, and eventually Moraine's like, you know what, I like her. And then Lan's like, who? And Moraine says Nynaeve. So Lan has Moraine's permission to romance Nynaeve up, so that's pretty interesting there. Lan then eventually goes to meet some people for dinner. Nynaeve follows, and it's basically Lan's adoptive family, which I thought was a pretty great moment, and it had a lot of meaningful development of Lan, because, you know, Lan has mostly been pretty stoic and not very personable. I mean, like, yes, he has friends, the three warders, and he's pretty friendly with Nynaeve, and he does have some good moments there with Moraine, but he is, as stoic as a character can be stoic without feeling like a non-character in a TV show, right? And so, kind of humanizing him with this adoptive family was really, really, really good. I like that a lot. And then, they have a bit of a romantic evening where Lan basically takes Nynaeve to meet his parents, which I thought was pretty cute. And then, scene shift, Rand is practicing some archery, and we get some interesting flame imagery there, which is as close as we're going to get to the idea of the flame that, Rand practices in his head in order to calm down, which I thought was pretty cool. I do hope that eventually we get to see, Rand concentrating, and then the screen goes black, and then a little flicker of flame happens, and then it grows, and eventually we get to see Rand, do some crazy ass weave, right? But I do like that, while he's preparing to shoot his shot, the flames around him move, bringing your attention to them, and that's like a little nod to the, the void and the flame, right? So I like that a lot. Yeah, Egwene shows up and they have a chat, and I like that Rand knows Egwene very well. He's like, I've noticed that whenever you want to talk, you'll find me. I don't have to go looking for you, which I thought was really good. And then they have this conversation about how Egwene actually does care about Mat and all this stuff, and whatever. And then Lan and Nynaeve are talking, and he explains what Daishan is, and this is after they have slept together, which is their first kind of like moment there. However, I think that Nynaeve has been kind of played weird. Very often, the way she stands feels like she's like childish. Like she just kind of has her arms to the side, and she doesn't feel very mobile. She kind of just looks like a kid that's like asking permission for things, and I don't like that. It makes her feel very unsocial. Like unsocialed. Like she hasn't really experienced, being friends with people and interacting with people. And so she's kind of just like hanging about with her arms next to her sides with her fists kind of balled up. It makes her feel kind of funky, and it doesn't really have this kind of like understated grace and power that Nynaeve has in the books. But either way, I think it's fine, and I actually do like that, she and Lan finally hooked up. However, I really would have liked that, kind of speech that Lan gives Nynaeve in the books about how he's not worthy of her, and that he's a king that has nothing that he can't give her, and that she deserves better, and she's like, no, I want you, kind of thing. I would have really would have liked that to be something that showed up in the series, but it's fine. What we got was pretty good, so it's okay. Eventually, Rand is back with Egwene, and he's in a bed with her. And he wakes up, and he remembers Winter Night when his dad was telling him, in his delirium, that, what's it called? That he found a child in Dragon Mountain, that he brought him with him, and he yells for his wife, and, he goes shooting again, and he eventually comes to the realization that he is the Dragon Reborn, which is cool. Thank God it was about time, although we knew about 2 episodes ago. And then he goes to visit Min, and his birth is explained. Not necessarily Min talking to Rand to explain it, but rather we get to go back to the Eel woman, and we get to see that, it's him. And eventually what happens is that he asks her what she sees of him again, and she responds, rainbows, carnivals, and 3 beautiful women, which is definitely something she tells him in the Eye of the World. But in this case, they played it as a joke, and then it's like, no, what I see is, things that you don't want me to tell you. And so he's like, okay, and then he goes and meets a Moraine, and he's like, I'm the Dragon Reborn, and Moraine and Rand go away. And then the next morning, everyone is waiting for them, but they don't see them, and Lan is like, Moraine has masked our bond. She has left, and Rand isn't there either, so Rand has gone with her, and the chapter or the episode ends with Moraine and Rand at the Blight. which is pretty cool. I actually like how the blight looks. So yeah, there you go. That's all there is to it. The part I didn't like, one, the pregnant acrobatics was pretty weird. However, the big important part that I didn't like was Egwene having this romantic triangle thing with Rand and Perrin, especially because it just doesn't make sense. Perrin had a wife. Perrin has no desire to be with Egwene. He has never shown any desire to be with Egwene until this episode when it was necessary to establish this plot device. So I don't like it. I think that it wasn't foreshadowed well. It wasn't done correctly. So I didn't like it. It felt like very fabricated and unnecessary, romantic tension. It doesn't really serve anything because by the end of the episode, they're perfectly fine again. So it's not like it mattered that they had this moment of, uncertainty there. So I didn't like it overall. I just thought it was weak. So that's it. That's all I had to say about this chapter or this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe and let me know what you guys thought. Do you guys think this romantic moment here, this romantic drama that they kind of created was worth it or not? Let me know down in the comments. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.